here are all the tips for extending battery lifespan on POCO X7 Pro. In order to keep the battery in a healthy state for as long as possible, we can go to the settings. Then over here we're gonna scroll down and go to battery. And there are a couple of settings that we can turn on in order to keep the battery in a healthy state for as long as possible. The first option is of course the battery saver. You don't have to use it all the time, however it is recommended to use it from time to time, especially when we try to keep or save the battery in certain situations. We also have the ultra battery saver, but I don't think it is really necessary to use it. Maybe in very rare occasions when you actually want to save the battery for as long as possible and you're about to lose the phone. And what you can actually do in order to optimize the battery and keep it for longer is do the battery checkups from time to time. Over here you will find some summaries of apps and other things that can drain your battery. For instance, over here we have high power consumption, and we can close apps that drain battery, and that is the apps, these apps that will be listed over here. We can also enable the option to, for instance, adjust the brightness automatically. Of course, these suggestions are based on your current settings, so you will definitely see different options over here. You can decide if you want to use the suggested option or make the suggested change by tapping on the circle or the check. And besides that, we also have suggestions. So these are tips that are pretty much universal for most of the users. So for instance, if you use always on display, then you are actually suggested to turn it off. By doing so, you will definitely keep the battery for longer. You can lower screen refresh rate to 60 Hz, although I'm sure not many of you actually wish to use less than 120. I mean, this is also the reason why you might get this phone, to use as many screen refresh rate as possible. So if you have 120, you definitely want to stick with that for as long as possible. Although, of course, if you are in a situation where you try to save as much battery as possible, then lowering the Hertz screen refresh rate is definitely recommended. In addition to that, we have of course more things, so you can decide what you actually want to do. You don't have to agree or accept everything. Like I said, you can just choose what you wish to do. And then once you are done, you can press the button at the bottom of the list. If you don't select anything, then you will just see the text optimized manually. And if you actually decide to choose something, then all those minutes will be added up. Of course, those are just estimate. Now, besides that, there are some tips for charging the device. And more precisely, you want to visit the battery protection in order to find those things, and that is the battery protection or smart charging. Now, the battery protection, in order to extend the battery life, makes the device stop charging when you reach the 80% of the battery. So when it's below 80% and you start charging, it only charges up to 80%. It doesn't exceed that amount. And the reason why this is the case is because most of the time nowadays all these smartphones have actually have those batteries adjusted to work the best and for the longest when you keep them between 20 and 80%. Some say it's just a myth. I'm not sure if that's really the case, if that's actually true or not, but if it's recommended, then of course why not give it a try. So essentially you want to charge your device when you have 20% left and you want to keep charging it until it's 80. Of course, if you want to have the battery charged as much as possible, then you can turn off this option and just charge it to 100%. But in addition to that, we also have smart charging, and you can only use one of these two options. You cannot really use both at the same time. The other gets disabled. And smart charging makes the system learn how you charge your device, so it is pretty much pattern usage learning. And based on that, the device will decide when it should start and stop charging. I mean, not start because it starts when you plug it into the charger, but it stops sometimes when it reaches 80%, and in some cases when the device thinks that you might need the whole 100%, then it keeps charging to the 100%. So at first, in order to get used to that 80%, you might want to start using smart charging, and then later on you can just switch to the battery protection. Of course, that is still optimal. Optimal and optional, that's what I wanted to say. And in addition to that, we have additional features that can also be worth checking out, because we have such thing as the 5G battery saver. Using 5G, of course, uses battery more than compared when not using it at all, but we can actually optimize the usage of battery saver, and then the connectivity is less power consuming in certain situations, in certain scenarios. We also have the cold endurance mode, where the device's performance is limited to extend the battery life when the ambient temperature is extremely low. So of course this depends on where you live, but if this can be helpful for you, if this applies to you, then of course it is recommended to enable this option. And that is essentially it in terms of extending the battery lifespan. Keep in mind that of course there are such things like the apps running in the background, so you can open recents in order to disable apps and clear them when they are not in use anymore. So try to remember to clear that stuff. If you open like 10 apps after some time, remember to just go back to the recents and turn them off, because that also helps you keep the battery for longer. Although I'm pretty sure that if you go to the optimization settings in the battery, or the battery checkup actually, this is how it's called, then you will be actually suggested to turn these apps off, so you probably don't even have to worry about it. And that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and see you in my next videos. Bye!